Hello, lovers. Welcome. I am Suprasan Srisha here. I'm a love devotee, practicing astrology, tarot, and spirit guide connections. I'm a queer Muslim mystic who believes in love in everything, and everything is divine love. Um, Today, we're having a very interesting series that I'm embarking on, which is Venus Embodiment, Conversations with Astrologers on Living with Their Venus. I'm currently in a Venus year, and to honor our laughter loving queen, I decided to embark on a YouTube project where we record beautiful conversations as what we're about to have about Venus through the signs and experientially as a way to connect with the current Venus transit. And anyone else out there who has Venus in Gemini or who is interested or who has friends with Venus in Gemini. Today we have an amazing person, McKenzie McCormick. McKenzie is a movement magician, planetary dance mage, astrologer, choreographer, and kitchen witch. So mercurial, with focusing on sensual and celestial embodiment. Her practice integrates experience in teaching dance movement and creating plant-based medicine. And her work includes facilitating one-on-one sessions, long-term client containers, in-person and virtual classes, and astrologically elected rituals and ceremonies. McKenzie was born in southern Indiana on Kiikaapoi and Myaamia and Shawandasse Tula land, and currently resides in central Florida on Tocobaga and Mascogo land. Hello, McKenzie, and welcome to our Venus series. Thank you so much for volunteering to do this with me. So yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you so much for asking me to be here. I'm so excited about this. I have been so excited about this. As soon as you asked me, I just pretty much erupted with excitement, as my Venus does. And, and was just like new. It was like full body yes. And I'm just so excited to be here with you.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's start with like the basics of when astrologers introduce themselves. I like to start with I'm gonna start with like what's my signs, right? We're gonna figure out what McKenzie's signs are later on anyway, because we're gonna be sharing her chart. But I'm a Sagittarius rising. I'm a Gemini moon. I always love to start with the sect light, as we call it, first, or destined light. And I'm an Aries sun, and I have a Venus in Aries. So for you, you can go by the sequence of like, what's your rising sign, what's your moon sign, your sun, and then your Venus sign.
So I am also a Sagittarius rising, and and my sect light is in Scorpio, and my sun is in Gemini, and my Venus is also in Gemini.
Yes. And that's why we're talking to you today, because of your Venus in Gemini. Okay, so
I also just have to say, I think it's so freaking amazing that we're doing this on Moon Day, which is Venus night, and your moon is literally like on my sun, and like it's like we have the best synastry ever. And like right now the moon, like Venus is in Gemini, of course, but the moon is also in Gemini, and so you are having this like Gemini moment right now, and I'm
very
like
much
living for it.
Yeah, like very much the Geminian activation. Yeah, the fact that when you were like, oh, let's do it on Monday, and I'm just like, yes, let's go. And I kind of like saw the transit. I'm like, yeah, moon in Gemini, my lunar return. So that's perfect. Okay, so let's just go. I'm always curious to ask astrologers about what and who, or like is Venus to you today or forever at any point in time, and how is your relationship to your Venus sign?
So I just like spoiler alert have some planets like in the 6th house, which for me is Taurus, and so I do a lot. So I do.
Should we actually share your chart?
You can just show it now. Sure. Just like get the nude out. You know what I'm saying? That's how the Venus can just be like, show it all, let it all out.
All right. So yeah, we have this.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. So I have Taurus placements. And so my Venus in Gemini, like she wants to do a lot of things, oftentimes in a very Martian way, like very physically. That comes through a lot, like with the Mars being in Taurus, and especially Mercury, who rules Venus. It's like there's no aspect, but there's a real cute mutual reception there. And so Venus, she's like well resourced to do like all of the things that she wants to do. And so for me, being in a relationship with Venus is always giving her something to play with, and always giving her something to have fun with. And in a lot of ways, that's like the epitome of stopping to smell the roses, because I'm not just going to stop and smell the roses. I'm going to go through the garden, and I'm going to go around the corner, and then I'm going to get lost, and I'm going to wind through and come back. And it's like that sensation, that real garden sensation of like the hummingbird and the butterfly and the bee that come and touch everything, and they literally pollinate everything and then spread it wide, and everything gets to be felt everywhere in so many ways. And so my relationship with Venus is very literally at times just doing whatever she wants me to do. Out of all of the planets in my chart, she's one that I don't have a super strict devotion with. Like I have very specific rituals that I go through with her, but a lot of the times it's kind of like, what are you in the mood for? What feels good to you right now? And really honoring that sensory experience in the moment of being right, and not overthinking it as, okay, it's not right enough, but if it feels true, then it is true in that moment. And that's the very almost intuitive sense that she provides to just sort of dance and jump and go wherever at any time that feels right.
I love that. And I love that you're I love that Venus in Gemini is always about that, even not having those rules, right? I was kind of like thinking of that through the lens of like play too. It's like a very playful Venus.
So playful. It's like, I'm not happy unless I'm laughing, honestly. If I go too long without laughing, I literally feel like I'm shriveling up and dying.
Oh my God.
I cannot exist too long without laughing, because I'm like, this is serious, this is miserable, like I could just die. Because the laughter, the play is like the ooh, it's like the little ooh, what was that? What was this? And it's very, I don't want to say like, actually, you know, I will just go ahead and say it.
Say it.
So there's a quote. It was translated, I think, by Ali A. Alomi. And this was posted on Twitter like over a year ago. And they said, Venus in Gemini is said to enjoy games, clever words, teasing, and delights in both men and women, according to Al-Qiyat and Masha'Allah. In other words, the original ethereal bisexual.
I love that.
Which is literally so fucking true. Like, it's so true. Like, every word, like games. I love games. I love playing games. I love being around games. The interesting thing is that I am not competitive, though. I have no interest in winning.
Exactly.
I want to play just to play.
And I think I love that, because I think that is what makes the I have Venus in Aries, right? So I feel like I play to win. Period. But like Venus in Gemini, it's almost like they're playing for the connection, and they're playing for the fun of it, as in like the pure. And the fact that even I want to kind of like circle back that even you were talking about laughter, and then connecting it with death, right? You know, that's very Scorpio moon of you, but at the same time it is you know, because I recently wrote my newsletter and talking about like Gemini as a 12th house of the Thema Mundi, which is how Gemini is in a way related to the psychopomp of death. And I was just like thinking about that, and how, Gemini Venus having the range, having the range to go to like these extremes of like experience of like, death, which is sometimes can be a very taboo topic for some people, right? And to the extreme parts of life, which is like the joy and the excess or the exuberance, whatever, it can be a very jovial too. Yeah. Yes. And I love that you're saying you don't play to win, which is such a very like as an Aries, I felt like what?
What is the concept of not winning? Like, excuse me? Yeah, but for me, like, I could not give a fuck about winning. Like, I'm like, did I have fun? Okay, I won then. There's actually a saying that people kind of joke around. I know that I rock climb also. That's like another thing. I dance and rock climb and do all of this physical shit. It's all so very Mars, but it's like Venus flavored, all of it still at the same time. And there's a saying that we say, it's like the best rock climber is the one having the most fun. And when I heard that for the first time, I was like, it's me. It's me right here, guaranteed. And I was like, that obviously makes me the best. That means I've won because I had the most fun. And I first heard that a few years ago, and I have taken that philosophy more deeply into literally everything in my life as a Venus practice. And it gives life, truly, because if I'm having fun, then I'm doing the best that I fucking can, literally.
Yeah, and I think it's like, as part of the Geminian promise to make light of things, right? I always, Gemini is already a mutable sign, which is already about changing. And for it to be an air, like coming out of Taurus, right? It's like, it's almost like that lightness that you require in terms of like what you bring joy and what you bring to the activity. The range of things that you're doing, you are, a rock climber, which is, very, like, I see that Mars in Taurus, like, reception with
it works so hard.
That and Mercury there too, right? It's like, so that's very beautiful, and that's great, obviously.
Something else I wanted to mention. Alice Sparkly Cat just writes amazing articles about literally everything we all been through. But one of them, what they did a Venus, like a series of Venus articles, and the one about Venus and Gemini, there's like one quote that or actually like two different ones that stick out to me from that. One of them is loving Gemini Venus is loving a student of intimacy. Because that's very much how it feels, because the Mercury of it is so studious. And there's something like never ending about the learning and the curiosity within intimacy, within love, that there's something still to be discovered. There's information still to find that it's still worth searching for. And then at the very end of it, it says, you cannot love a Gemini Venus in the same place as you started, which I think very beautifully speaks to the mutability, because one of my favorite things that I always say, like, quote to me for this, is mutability is the spice of life. Because it is. And it's the thing that constantly changes and constantly adds something new. And that concept of not being able to love someone in the same place, because they're going to shift and change, because they're going to be pollinated by so many different ideas and so many different people through time, that they're going to change because of all of those beings touching them.
And I love, like, Ace talking about like, the student of intimacy, and I think that is such a Venus and Gemini, because literally the student is a very Geminian trait, right? Being Mercury ruled, and the fact that you are willing to kind of like go around out and about and really like being excited and being that. And I also, it takes a level of devotion. People always think that Gemini is a fleeting sign, which is, it could be, right? Kind of just like the pollinator. It could be, because it has other things to do. That's also part of the job,
right? Like, that is the Gemini agenda. Be like, I can't stay here. I literally have
I can't stay here. Like, I have other purposes in life,
Like, I have other plants to pollinate, and then it's like, I gotta go migrate and then come back. Like, I got things to do.
Yeah. So I think that is also an aspect of Gemini, especially when it comes to love astrology. People look at Venus and Mars, and Venus and Gemini has always been like, almost this one of this like kind of like stereotypical Venus that is fleeting almost, right?
Which it's true. It's very true. And like, there's a lot of kind of baggage with that I've had to unpack over time. Like, for a very long time, I was in denial that I was queer. For a very long time, I thought that a monogamous relationship was going to be perfect for me. Neither of those things are fucking true. And now I'm like an openly queer person in a beautiful open relationship. And so it's like, I'm able to do the things that I want to do and live the life that I want to live, because I've accepted that I shouldn't feel shame over existing the way that I fundamentally exist.
Oh my God, that's
like,
so good.
And I have Venus in the 7th. And so like relationships are literally everything to me. And so like, I can't even say that with enough, I think, importance and drama, that relationships are literally everything to me. I don't even, there's no start, stop, end point before or after that. That's how I am so fundamentally relational as a human that I can't, and it's not that I don't exist, that I don't, it's not that I don't see myself outside of the other, because I have a very well-formed sense of self. Sag risings can't not, I think, honestly. But I also, the mutability of it is that I so easily see myself as part of an other in so many different ways, on so many different relational levels, like far more than romantic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's so many layers to that that take exploring.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I feel like Sun in the 7th house people, they are very good in relationships too. Like they're naturally, oh my God, look at that, it's so cute. Like your dog wants to be in the video. It's like, look at me.
It has to.
Yeah, all that 6th house placement.
Period. It's actually funny too, because I always say that the two of them are like Mercury and Mars, because I have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct in the 6th, like partile. And I always say that this one who's off screen, who doesn't really, sometimes she's on screen, but it's like in your face when she is, because it's like on my lap. She's asleep, but he's the one that I says is Mercury, which is funny that he's the one that wants to be on camera, because he never really cares about being on camera. But it's right now when we're talking about Venus and Gemini being ruled by Mercury in Taurus that homie's like, what up?
So yeah, for everyone's like, McKenzie has Venus and Gemini with Taurus 6th house, with Mercury and Taurus in the 6th. So
we're like, am I talking too fast? Are we following?
That is, those are more like not as astrologically as inclined, to give some context in the 6th house.
I know. The real astro of that is I talk fast. That's like what that actually means.
I know, that's also a very Geminian thing, right? It's kind of just like the bouncing of different ideas. And even from there, what
you were saying? No, you were saying how people with like I think Sun in the 7th or Venus in the 7th.
Yeah, Sun in the 7th. And now you also have Venus in the 7th. So I feel like those, and the fact that how you were saying how that is so essential, because the Sun is also a form of like a life force, right? It is about, and Venus is also what you value, and it's basically the copresence there. It's like, it's like how you operate on a very day-to-day kind of like feeling and like lens and stuff.
And that is one of the things, just like that copresence, that is something that I recognize when any type of relationship, romantic, platonic, business, whatever it is, that's when I've recognized that it starts to go bad, is when I'm not continually feeling my life force being nourished by the relationship. And also the sun, and also the sun's visibility, like when I'm not being seen, that's when I know it's bad. Because also my Venus, we're kind of skipping all over the place because we knew that would happen, but my Venus is fairly unaspected. Like she basically aspects my midheaven, but she doesn't really make any, whole sign, like, but by real aspect, she really doesn't aspect much. She technically aspects Saturn, but it's not close.
Yeah.
It's not close. So she's just out here kind of wilding. Honestly.
There is a sign-based configuration for sure.
Yeah. And so the closest degree base is the midheaven, because my midheaven's at 27 and she's at 25. And so that's another thing that I've felt with the sun and the midheaven really being the things that Venus is like, hi, I see you. It's like visibility within relationships is very important to me, making sure that I'm being seen accurately and making sure that what I'm saying is being felt and like expressed and received accurately. And not accurately as in like factually, but more so as in authentic to my intention.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. And I think it's like, it is an unaspected Venus. And
she gives no fucks.
As if, and that's, I think there is a sense of like agency when it comes to unexpected planets, right? There is a sense of like, other people are not bothering me as much. Like when maybe there are certain things whenever you engage in Venusian things, maybe you like to do it a bit alone in a way too, like as in like you can do it all or by yourself.
Truly. That's also the Scorpio moon talking, because like there are a few things that I value as much as my alone time.
That's true. Yeah.
Period. There are very few things that I value as much as my time to be alone, so that I can like recharge, so that I can go like be within hundreds of people how I was like at Pride over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also in retrograde too, and then it's kind of just like the fact that you do identifying queer. I feel like Venus in a certain kind of like, you know, we all know that, you know, Mercury is already like very non-binary and very like gender fluid. But
the original non-binary icon.
The original of it all, NB. But Venus retrograde too is about like, you know, having values that could be quote unquote against, you know, the collective or kind of like the status quo of like what quote unquote normal is, right? Yeah. So the definition of like normality. And yeah, you do have your descendant and sun like literally conjunct, like the sun was just
right
like
there,
dimming down there. It's just like,
yeah, and that's actually Venus is honestly one of the main reasons that I feel that I'm very strongly a night chart, because I was only born roughly 4 to 5 minutes after the sunset, but Venus was in the sky, you know, she was an evening star, she was retrograde, so she was pretty far from the sun being able to be seen, and the moon had already risen because I was born right before a full moon. And those two factors alone are pretty strong, along with like Mars stuff and Saturn stuff and how that's shaken out in my life. But Venus was such a big indicator to me that like, okay, Venus things are just naturally inclined to what I like to do and how I operate as a human being. And so it made it more real for me to feel like, okay, that actually is how my lived experience is, because although I do have like sun literally on the fucking descendant, and it's like, yeah, people see me, it's still a very lunar embodied experience in ways that would not feel that way if I did not have Venus working so hard for me.
That's true. Yeah, Venus is really like your benefic offset in that case. And it's also in the balance of Saturn, which is for me, I use the Egyptian balance, the terms as a way to kind of like see another layer of interpretations of like embodiment, right? You know, Saturn is the planet that pulls in the reality. And so I feel like that Venus being in the term of Saturn, which is kind of interesting. I think a lot of your points are not in the terms of Saturn. I think that is the only Venus. Venus is the only traditional one that is in the balance of Saturn. And I feel like,
and also Saturn is technically like by whole sign the only thing aspecting.
Yeah, the only thing as aspecting. So so it's kind of like interesting once you can't witness your ruler, you sometimes find the different layers of like, okay, what else is ruling me that I could have some sort of connection with. And literally it is witnessing the bound ruler, which is Saturn in the 5th, which is literally all your creative projects. And it makes me think about you being even like the kitchen witch, right? Like the idea that you actually make stuff, like you make devotional stuff, you make like magic stuff. And I think you know, Saturn is a cult too in a way, and Venus is about like making things, that ritualistic thing, coming it to reality, like bringing it here. So I think you are really embodying that Venus, partly because of that Saturn bound ruler as the initiator towards your reality.
I love that. Also because I do have Saturn obviously in fall, and
you're in that generation.
Obviously I've talked about my Taurus house a lot, but I really haven't talked about my Libra house, you know, the other house that Venus rules in my chart, which is my 11th, which does, you know, interestingly, especially with Saturn in Aries, look sometimes a lot like that push and pull between like me and everyone else. Because sometimes, and this is probably also a 12th house thing, but when I spend like way too much time in community, I like burn out and need solo time. But the way that I avoid that is by having like 20 different communities basically for all of my different fucking interests.
That's true. Oh my God, that's so... Yeah, as someone who lives, my chart ruler is in the 11th and we're both match rising, and like I understand that so much too. It's like I think you, because you have a North Node there too, and I think it's like whatever communities you're in, you also can't help to make those relationships closer, right? Because Libra, Libra is about that one-on-one intimacy too, and the fact that the ruler of Libra for you comes back to Gemini in the 7th, and the fact that you say that, how you remediate that or how you kind of like balance that out is through having a lot of different communities that could...
Absolutely, because it's like God. I need enough time with enough different people to talk about all of the different things that I like to do. Because I can't just like, and this isn't always true, but like I generally can't just like walk up into the rock climbing gym and like talk about astrology like this, you know? This being said, there is a very small niche of astrologer, magician, dancer, climbers. Shout out to Joe.
Joe Maker of Ways.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Shout out to Joe, because Joe and I think this is like the most superior niche of like astrologer, magician, climber, dancers. But it's a very weird thing. And it's also like just having so many different things. You can't, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but you can't expect one person to do it all for you, Like, sorry, but one person can't be everything. And I think Venus and Gemini understand so beautifully that no, one person cannot do it all for you. And isn't that amazing? Isn't it beautiful that you are lucky enough to get to experience depths of relationships with such a wide variety of people that nourish you in so many different ways? Wow, what a fucking gift. Yeah. And that to me is like the juiciest shit ever about my Venus, because I often, since it is 11th house, 7th house stuff, I often do find very close knit friends within larger communities.
Yeah. And that's how we met. Like truly.
Literally through Ascendant Assembly. Shout out to Kelsey for putting together Ascendant Assemblies, which is amazing fucking rising sign meetups, because now Shahir and I are best friends and it's amazing.
And it's in your chart too, and we have like amazing synastry.
It is like it's literally written in the stars, baby. And but that like 7th house, 11th house thing is so real, where I'm very good at differentiating what is the community and what is shared versus okay, now we're intimate and we're homies type vibe. Yeah, like there is a difference, and my Venus is really good at knowing that all of it is valuable, literally all of it, because I feel like at times there can be like a little, and this is the Saturn in me, which is like, oh, do I have to be part of a community? But also like, do I have to be an individual? It's really frustrating sometimes, like going both ways with that. Yeah. And Venus is always there to remind me, like, you get to be all of it. You get to be everything, all of it, all the time. Well, not all the time, because you can't be everything all the time, but you can you can bring out the facets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like a very important thing, like for me to remember. And the whole, like, I have a wide variety of friend groups, and I guess it's also worth mentioning, like the same thing with like Taurus. I have a wide variety of jobs. Like that's very literal. Like Venus and Gemini, the variety, it's super literal. And also something that's worth mentioning is that often my 7th house Venus has found partnership within either a community of friends or not where I work usually, but I will meet somebody where they work.
Oh, okay. That makes so much sense.
And often, actually very literally, my partner right now, both of those things are true, because we met in a larger community space, but it just also so happened to be where they work.
Oh my God, that is very literal manifestation.
Yeah, it's like astrologer, #astrologer good.
Yeah, astrologer good. And also the fact that the ruler of the 7th is in the 6th. So you're like, for me, that's also like another method of delineating, okay, where you're going to find your
partner.
Am
I going to meet? Yes.
Yeah, where you're going to meet them, and where the ruler is, and the fact that you met them through true, like literally where your partner is working. It's like such a sixth house thing.
And that hasn't been just like a one-off thing. Like that has been a multiple occasion thing.
Yeah.
One of my exes was a bartender. I met them at the bar when I went there.
Oh my God.
So like there have been many instances and flavors of that story that have gone on through my life.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. And I think the fact that you were talking about relationship is important for you. I was like, yeah, we cannot discard that North Node hunger, which is like in Libra in the 11th, right? It's like, I really want to taste of some sort of like difference in this world through relating with another, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, yeah,
it's
and
very
going,
intimate.
Very into, yeah, and like kind of like, you know, you do have that South Node and Saturn, which is kind of like, yeah, I cannot just be limited by my own sense of individuality. Like I cannot,
never.
like, no, never. Yeah, so I love that, and yeah, and I think your Venus, and I know you are a very hardworking person, as in like you.
Like, don't tell them my secret here. Don't tell them that I never stop grinding.
Just like, yeah, and then it's like, but like that's the thing, right? I think that's also that's a part of like the chart that people just witness. I always think of like people always witness this part of our chart more. Like I see people,
so true.
People see 11th, 10th, 9th, and 7th a lot about part of this, but they don't actually see like, you know, what's beneath under here.
The horizon,
yeah. So that's like another thing. Just like I'm dying.
I literally love it so much. One thing that you said actually kind of talking about like the 11th house, like that hunger for that like intimacy in ways. That is something that I have felt honestly about like words themselves in a lot of ways. That's something that I've discovered is a very Venus and Gemini thing, is like I'm constantly feeling things that I cannot find words for.
Yeah.
And there are things that I'm like emotionally feeling that I'm like, where is the word for that? And then even when I find the word, I feel the constant need to describe it and expand on it. And it's like, it's literally not just enough for me to like tell someone, be like, hey, I hope you have a happy birthday. It's like, we had this memory together and I hope you have the most amazing day. Like I usually have like a paragraph, and like even like I can't, like when I hang out with my friends, I'm so ridiculous that I have cried on regular occasions hanging out with my friends because I'm like, I love all of you so much. This is the best shit ever. And it's a very like, and it's like, and I trip over my words. And I'm like, I can't even talk about how great this is because I'm too busy vibing. And I feel like what you said about the North Node really lends itself to that well, which is because I didn't actually mention that, which is that trine to the North Node that Venus is making. That was my mistake for completely not mentioning that.
Yeah, no, it's all okay. Yeah, that's what we're here.
It definitely feeds into that hunger for wanting to feel.
Yeah, and wanting to describe those feelings, and feelings is something, you know, it is I think we both have this very, we are both kind of like, now that I look at your chart, I feel like we have certain kind of like synergy where it's like, yeah, your Venus is also in averse to your Mercury. So it's like, you know, I have the same thing where I'm a Pisces Mercury and I'm an Aries Venus. So it's always like that sense of like, oh my gosh, my words can't contain all this Venusian feels that I am literally at, right? Yeah. And usually you'll have to coordinate that through other planets in a way.
Like you gotta find a way to get that out, you know what I mean?
And for you it's like, okay, thank God that Mercury actually rules your Venus, so perhaps sometimes you could find it, you know, somehow. But it will take a little bit of a time because
Taurus said it's gonna take some time, baby.
It will be like, it'll come, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. You know? Just sit back and wait. Literally what I do in those situations, often my brain is like, all right, get your hand, like Gemini, get your hands busy with something else, take some time, forget about it, and then it will come to you.
Oh my God, I love that. That's like literally multitasking at its best.
It is actually. Gemini, also the original multitasker. Virgos put up a good competition though. I know some good, you know, baby, we could be doing 20,000 things at once, put a Gemini and a Virgo together, it's gonna get done. It might,
That's true. That's true.
And so like I think that that's also a very literal thing with Gemini. Venus and Gemini is like ruling the hands. This is another astrologer good thing. I have extremely tattooed, colorful hands and arms. It is a very literal manifestation that I've noticed because I work with my hands. I type, I make stuff, I cook, I dance, I look at my body a lot. And so when people ask me what my favorite tattoo is, I have a few different answers because it's often like, well, depending on what I'm wearing, like which one can you see, that type of situation. But like the ones on my hands, I see them all the time. And it's a very simple way that I have wanted to add beauty to a thing that I see all the time, that I do things with all the time. And so I have tattoos all over my body. So that's not just a strictly beautifying my hands thing, but it is something that it's the one that I see and notice and observe more than any other.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. Yeah. Gemini is the hands of the planet. And oh my God, like that's such a beautiful expression of your Venus. Like doing things with all your hands basically, and having all these beautiful tattoos, like that is Venus on the hands. It's like Venus is expressing herself through your hands. Yeah. And
I have to like fight it a lot of the times when I'm talking on Zoom to not like do a lot of this, because when I talk in real life, I literally like do all of this, and I like make shapes and stuff, and I'm just like, what am I doing? And so I have to like fight that on Zoom. I can't like just sit here like this because I would go nuts, but I can't be like making a PowerPoint with my fingers.
That's true.
And so that's just something that I have thought to work through over time.
Yeah. Have you ever had any crisis where, like a Gemini crisis where
I have one every day.
Oh my God. Like, no, it's like, because I remember like the final, like the decan, your Venus is in the final decan, which is, it is related to the 10 of Swords in the tarot. It is about like the life and death and having some sort of like finality to things. And it's like kind of just like, like Venus there, and I think Austin Kopok's 36 Faces say it's like that is the decan of like the executioner's blade.
Sword, right? The sword,
the blade. And I was just like thinking of like Venus in there and kind of just like Venus having to make some decisions in a way, or
she cuts shit out. She cuts shit out. Like, and that sounds so funny, but I love that term so much, like the executioner's blade or sword, whatever. But like I love it so much because like it ain't nothing to cut that bitch off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the knowingness that like there's always going to be something else that feels good. If this one doesn't feel good anymore, there will be more, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That can sound superficial. That can sound like, oh, you're just cutting shit out left and right, but it's really more along the lines of you've done the assessment, because it's very mercurial. It's an assessment. Like I have assessed that these feelings are no longer good, and it's not going to be hard for me to cut that bitch off.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a very kind of logical at times approach to how those feelings feel, and thinking, all right, I might feel some type of way about this, but let's be real and let's get down to business.
Yeah.
And so
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
Also, something super interesting. I almost got the 10 of Swords tattooed on me.
Shut up.
Yeah,
that is fucking Venus. It's
one of my favorite cards. It's literally one of my favorite cards. Like,
oh my God, it's so bizarre. Like, okay, so tangent story.
And I say almost because I canceled the appointment because I had a different travel plan, and that ended up happening. It's like that's very mercurial. Like I had something else to do, literally. But I also got like a literal message from Venus that was like, "Don't tattoo that on yourself." It was like, you know what? You know what?
You don't have to subject that to your life.
You know what? Yeah. Venus was like, put it on your altar. Put it on my altar, in fact. But do not tattoo it on you. There are better things.
You don't want a miserable life.
Same. Seriously. I'm like, I want to be happy. So
and I love that. I think it's like, and that is also a very 10 of Swords moment, right? It's almost like,
oh, it fucking was.
Because the like you had it scheduled, but like something else came out, which is like 10 of Swords is the idea that as much as the executioner's blade in the sense of like you are the one choosing, But it is also about the universe. It's like, hey, nah, we're not going there. Let me choose for you, right? So it's like, so I love that because you're like, oh, you're just like, okay, you were just going with the flow. The fact that the appointment got canceled and you did not have, because I also do believe like certain archetype, you may not want to have it on your body.
Preach it, baby.
Yeah. But okay, but why were you like infatuated? Like you loved the card so much, or how did that come about to you?
Yeah, I literally just love the card so much. At one point I was planning on getting 2 tarot cards tattooed on me because I practiced tarot before I did astrology, and I think kind of similar to you because you're now going to like stop offering tarot. I like stopped offering tarot when I started offering astrology, like different path, but same sort of thing. And I stopped offering tarot because I was whatever, call me selfish, I don't give a fuck. I was like, I want something just for me. I was like, I don't want to offer it anymore. I just want to do it for myself.
Yeah,
and that's fucking fine. And that's fucking fine. And I also just realized over time that I was a much better astrologer than tarot reader. Not that I'm a bad tarot reader. I just have a deeper passion for astrology. So I knew that that's what I should offer, like to be fair to my practice.
That's beautiful.
So, but I was initially going to get 2 of them tattooed on me kind of like in the same place, like on my, like each of my legs. But then I ended up filling in that other spot with other things. And I was like, well, I'll still get this one. And then I was like, no, actually, I think I want to leave that whole space open because I was kind of having a different brainstorm conceptualization about how I wanted that limb because I don't really have anything on my right leg. I have like 2 small things, but nothing large. So I was like, no, I want to actually commit to like finishing my left leg before starting like my right. And then I was like, you know what? How about we just don't do this tarot? How about we don't do that? Let's not do that. Let's not do that at all. No.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that you were also talking about like the left and the right leg because it's like, it's really
we go both ways.
Exactly. So it's like all about the balance too, of like Venus, like Venus wanting that symmetry. And I think it's like, Gemini is also the twins, right? Which is about like the symmetrical, like
both sides,
about the Libras too, that relationship, the Libra archetype of the balance. But the Gemini is more about the twins. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anything else about
that Venus? Brings me to a couple, because there were a couple fire ass quotes.
Go ahead.
That I wanted to bring up from some people that have Venus in Gemini.
Okay. All right.
So first and foremost, I put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it, which is a Bible verse we all know. From the original Testament. Sorry. That is obviously from Missy Elliott from Working.
Yes.
But Missy Elliott has Venus in Gemini, one of my all-time favorite fucking music artists.
Oh my God.
Her work is iconic. If you don't think it's iconic, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
I'm going to a Missy Elliott dance party like next month or something. Yeah.
Oh, please. And that's just so beautiful. Amazing. And then also,
and that is such a, I love that you were quoting like Testament and all those things, which is like that from the original.
I mean, it is like,
and I think that's what Mercury does as well. I think in one of the readings, I remember talking about like Mercury is about a person who kind of like changing the text, right? Like flip it and reverse it, like literally.
Put that thing down, flip it and reverse it.
And reverse it. Like,
and then she
no,
like,
we don't follow that thing, Yeah. So
it's cool. Well, it actually, funny enough. So, and then she proceeds to say say that thing reverse in the next line. You can't see it right now. I should have worn a top where you can see it, but I literally have the word desire tattooed underneath one of my titties, and I have Erised tattooed on the other one from from the mirror of Erised from Harry Potter.
God. You need to stop being such a Gemini twin. And desire is Venus.
I literally put that thing down, flipped it, and reversed it.
Oh my God, stop.
The tattoo is amazing. It's so good.
I love it.
So I had to mention that. And then one more, one of my all-time favorite quotes, not really, I didn't think of it as Venus and Gemini specifically. I just always loved this quote. And then whenever you reached out to me and I was thinking about people and I was looking up people that had Venus and Gemini, I found this quote like came up and I was like, oh shit. love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. And that is from William Shakespeare's A Midsummer's Night Dream, which was written in roughly 1595.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, Shakespeare has Venus in Gemini. And Midsummer's Night's Dream is just one of my favorite Shakespeare plays because it's all about like fucking fairies in the forest and shit, and it's like really hard to follow. Makes sense that it's my favorite. But it's such a beautiful quote that is just so like, oh, winged Cupid, like, oh, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. And that's what love, that's like such a like a Venus in Gemini quote is like, yeah, you might be beautiful, but do you make me think? Do we have a good conversation? Do we have anything besides looks? Is there depth? Do we have, are we able to hold space with words? Do we understand each other? It's a deeper level of that people think is superficial because it's like, oh, you're just talking about nothing. But it's like, that is the beauty of being able to talk about nothing for hours, is that inevitably it becomes so significant.
That's true. Yeah. And falling in love with the mind is such a Venus and Gemini trait, right? It's like, it is literally like the brain. And I think it's like, I'm probably going to have a podcast on it or whatever. But like, I think sometimes in astrology or even in magic, like in tarot too, tarot discourse, I feel like the swords get a very bad rap. Like even the air signs in terms of like, as if the mind is like contrast to like, it's always in opposition to like intuition or even like emotion, which is kind of like demonizing the air signs basically. But that is like another tangent topic, which I'm like, that's like
it's true though. I mean, just to give it like a brief point, it is true because it's essentially putting the mind underneath everything else in a lot of ways. And it's like, oh, you're just so superficial. You made a joke about it or whatever it might be without recognizing the power of those words. And without recognizing that, you know, words have so much depth to them that can't just be reduced to superficiality.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh my God. I love that so much. Yeah. Oh wow. The way you're like unpacking the range of like what it means.
The range, you know what I'm saying?
The range. It's just like if you just accept it as like that, that's not Geminian, right? You know, you have to be curious about something more there.
Always. There's always something more. And that's the beauty, is knowing that there's always more to explore.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay. Do you have anything? Okay. I think that's it from you.
I think so. I have like my little bomb ass list of people that have Venus and Gemini because I'm in love with them all. If you want me to shout them out.
Yeah, you can shout them out. Like, you know, just say some.
So as far as we're starting with athletes, because first and foremost, Venus Williams has motherfucking Venus and Gemini. It's lit.
My God,
her name is literally Venus. And then Carmelo.
And they're always associated together. Like, you know.
Right. Venus. Her and her sister.
Yeah. Like
pairs. They're doubles.
That's like the pair.
That tripped me up so hard when I did it. I was like, wow, it's not Serena, it's Venus.
Yeah.
That was a moment. And then Carmelo Anthony, who's a basketball player. Super interesting. Oh, also Lori Hernandez. She's a gymnast from like 2016 Olympics. She's a little cutie. In the fashion world, I found it very interesting. Heidi Klum, Naomi Campbell, and Joan Rivers all have Venus and Gemini. A very like a fashion forward, like edgy moment that I felt, because all of them, a lot of times I feel like have expressed like hot takes.
Oh my God. And Naomi Campbell too, right? People always attribute her, I think she's a Capricorn or something. Oh no, actually she has some Saturnian features.
She does have some Saturn
people say that that's why her career is very long. Is then like she's still a fucking supermodel, whatever level that is. But then I was like, but she has Venus and Gemini though. That's why she is forever in trend. Like, you know,
literally she's always on trend.
Yeah, she's like, it's like, I think Gemini is also about that youthfulness, as in like you can tap into the energy. Literally,
especially, this is something I've noticed. This is like a long-term thing that I'm noticing with different clients, is like Saturn signatures with Gemini signatures is like, not only do you look good forever, but you literally look like you have something going on. Like that's a thing based on Naomi Campbell. It's like, what do you know that I don't know? Like you almost have like a little secret, like the little smirk that a kid has almost when they know something that you don't.
exactly. And
slick.
that is what makes it like trendy too, as in like it's up to date, it's still current in a way, right? It is still relevant to the current environment as much as it is about the longevity of like Saturn. Oh my god, I love that you shout that out. I'm a huge fashion fan. That's
truly. One of my favorite artists of all time, Frida Kahlo, has Venus in Gemini. Also, I'll move on from that. And then I have a fairly juicy long list of musicians because I just so happen to love a lot of Venus and Gemini musicians. So I'm like, wow, that's
because that's their
awesome.
Venus sign too, yeah.
Right. And so of course Missy Elliott, and then we have like icons out here. We have Cher. We have Adele.
Oh my god, stop. And all the Venusian suns too.
We have
Taurus. Oh my god.
We have Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
We have Jennifer Lopez. And then probably one of my all-time favorites for nostalgia reasons, which is Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was one of my dad's favorite all-time artists, and I have some Bob Dylan on vinyl that I love listening to. And this goes with all Venus signs, is like listening to like artists that have the same Venus, because it's music, it's art, they're gonna have like kind of the same taste as you. But listening to Bob Dylan vinyls like gets me so it just hits me different like different. And then also I think all musicians do this in a way, but the thing that has drawn me to a lot of these artists that have Venus and Gemini is their lyrical prowess in ways.
Yes.
You know, the ability to play with words. Like Missy Elliott literally said a fucking phrase in reverse and broke the internet. Like before there was really much internet. There was, but not like there is today. Exactly. But she still breaks the internet. Like I remember when there was actually going back to what you were saying about being constantly on trend, is I remember there was a whole viral moment when people didn't even realize that Missy Elliott was saying that phrase in reverse. They just thought it was gibberish. That was me for a while, because I didn't know either, but I thankfully figured it out before some people did, which was cool. But there was like a whole trend where people are like, did you know she's saying it backwards? And it's like, wow, literally reverse it. And
like even that the fact that it was kept mysterious, it was misunderstood at first too, right? And that's also a very typical, messenger energy. I was just like, you didn't understand the fully yet, but yeah, sure, you don't know. And now, like, do you know? Like that extra information, like, did you know?
Don't you know? That is very much a Gemini thing too, because not to be all pop astro about it, but it is one of the signs that gets the most hate. Because people be like, you're so nosy, you're so two-faced, and it's like, you didn't need to expose yourself for not having the range. Okay,
exactly.
Like,
that's why I love material folks. I was just like, do you hate Gemini, or you just don't have the range? That's it.
Truly. And it's like, it's a deeper sense of recognition that there is more than one part of you that can exist at the same time, that could potentially be contradictory to another part of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Figuring out what that means to want something that could contradict something else. And then also furthering that, becoming even more with that, which is removing the concept of that contradictory nature from your desires.
That's true. Yeah. And that's like, almost all my crisis. It's like, I always feel like, why do I feel so contradictory? I'm like moon and south node, right? But then at the same time, I'm like learning to be Geminian is learning to hold those contradictions within us. Yeah,
absolutely. And understanding that they all have a place, and they all have a time, and they all have a moment to emerge, just in the way that the bee and the butterfly pollinate certain flowers at certain times, because they know what needs to be brought forth at that time, and they know what needs to be shared. And knowing those moments and knowing that they're there and trusting that they'll happen, instead of kind of having a more strict view of, okay, well, it has to be this way all the time, because Venus and Gemini is just not going to fuck with that. Venus and Gemini is not going to fuck with it staying the same way all the time, because that's not it. Something else that I think is just really, we've talked about it earlier, which is like the mutability, but the change that is required to love someone with a Venus and Gemini, and like the love you have to have for yourself if you have a Venus and Gemini, to know that your desires are going to change. You shouldn't feel ashamed for that. Like you shouldn't regret that. You shouldn't feel like that's bad. You know?
Changing desires change. That's the Venus and Gemini mantra. I love that. And I think it requires a deep look into ourselves to be able to do that. And even, to really think about the kind of partnerships or the kind of people that we want to be. If all the Venus and Geminis out there, which sometimes they could feel like, oh my God, how do I want to feel seen in this? Perhaps changing desires can feel a bit being demonized, right? For changing, for suddenly changing our mind suddenly, like the fact that you even the timing of our scheduled call, it's just like you might do it earlier. I'm like,
can we do it a little early? Yeah.
Like, let's go. I'm down. I'm ready. So it's like, the fact that we started with that. Even I always look at synchronicity and kind of just like being comfortable with change and changing plans and changing in desires. Is such a
because literally the change in plan happens because one of my friends messaged me and was like, hey, I have an extra ticket to a concert tonight, do you want to go? And it's like a spoken word concert, like
that's like poetry screaming at you. It's just like, hey, and it's your fucking friend
on Venus night. She was like so about that.
She's doing the work, she's making it known.
Truly, honestly, she truly is. And that beauty in change and that beauty, I really think of it as like the butterfly metaphor, the literal metamorphosis that happens when you receive new information and you are instantly changed. That is the way that like my Gemini really feels the truest, is that I know that I can change at any point in time when I receive new information that hits me differently, essentially. Now I have a piece of information, I have a piece of the puzzle that I didn't have before. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with changing your opinion or changing your stance on something when you have a wider perspective than you had before. And from my view, as a person with Venus and Gemini, it's literally horrifying to me when people don't change, when they have facts exposed to them. It's literally horrifying. It's like, what do you mean that thing just happened? You're not gonna like integrate that into your existence? What the fuck? Like,
this is
shots fired, baby. Maybe shots fired, but I mean, it's fine. And that's the way that it is. That's the way that our existence works in the Venus and Gemini world, which is new facts mean new feelings, which means new ways of being.
Oh my God. I love that. And thank you, thank you for sharing all those words. I hope everyone who's like watching this in the future
is riding the chaos with us, baby.
Riding all the Venus and Gemini chaos and make them feel seen, make the people in their lives with Venus and Gemini feel seen. I think that's how astrology works for me. It's like, that's partly why I wanted to embark on this project, because I think there's a way for us to make all those placements feel seen and feel embodied. So, oh my God, I feel like my task is accomplished. And I'm like, I love you so much for doing this. Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this project and doing this, like creating this space really for Venus to have her moment through all of the signs.
Of course.
I feel like so many people do Venus work, but it's totally different to be like, hey, your experience with Venus, but also just her as a whole in that very specific sign and place and through everything she touches. And it's so beautiful that you're doing this. And it's such an honor that I was, the first.
Yeah, you were like really embodying that Venus in my 7th house too. And like the fact that we're going through all the signs to like make sense astrologically as well. And I was just like, I'm in a Venus here. Just like let's like be the bees and go through all the different signs and pollinating all those
pollinating every flower.
And like let's see what every single flavor. I've like reached out to a few astrologers which I know kind of like close. I was like, oh, let's do yours, and I know all of them will be so beautiful. All right.
I'm so excited to listen to everybody else's as well, especially because at this point, it kind of happens when you're in astrology, you just like collect people with all different placements. And so I'm so excited to listen to all the other ones and think about all of the people in my life that I love that have that Venus placement, because I really feel like that's what this is going to be for everyone, is a real balm for everyone's Venus situation, because it's not just where your Venus is, you know, you can look at that place in your chart, which I know, you know, like, and what's aspecting it, is your shit touching it? Can it see it? Can it not?
Mm-hmm.
And it's such further illumination on that place in your chart and how Venus can really touch it. And it's just so special that you're doing this. And
I love that you're talking
love
about
you. And I love
thank you. I love you.
I love our friendship so much.
All right. With that and with so much love, we are ending this recording. Thank you so much, McKenzie. Take care, everyone. See you in the next episode.